Welcome back to Behind the Mind. Last time, we explored why women are drawn to emotionally unavailable men, how the brain confuses unpredictability for passion and pain for love. But what happens when that illusion begins to crumble? When she starts to see the pattern clearly, not through her emotions, but through awareness. That's where the real story begins. This is the awakening. At first, it doesn't happen dramatically. There's no explosion, no final argument, no loud goodbye. It begins quietly, in moments that look ordinary from the outside, but inside, something is shifting. He sends a short reply, and for the first time, she doesn't overanalyze it. He goes silent for days, and she doesn't lose sleep waiting. She starts to realize that peace feels better than attention. That's how awakening begins, not with anger, but with exhaustion. A quiet kind of tiredness that says, I've tried everything, I've given everything, and now I just want peace. See, emotional unavailability creates a constant storm. You're always waiting for something that never fully comes. One day he's warm and attentive, the next he's distant, cold, unreachable. And every time he pulls away, your mind races to fill the silence with reasons. You replay every word, every message, every memory, searching for what you did wrong. But eventually, a woman stops asking what she did wrong and starts asking why she's still there. And that's the first sign of awakening, when the focus shifts from him to her. The truth is, emotional detachment isn't instant. It's slow, subtle, and almost invisible at first. She still cares, but her care loses its desperation. She still loves, but her love loses its fear. And that small difference changes everything. Because when fear leaves love, love becomes power. Let's go deeper. When she was chasing his attention, she didn't realize what was actually happening inside her brain. Every time he gave her a little affection, dopamine surged, the same chemical released during gambling or addiction. Then, when he pulled away, cortisol spiked, the stress hormone that makes the body crave relief. So she stayed, not just because she loved him, but because her body was chemically bonded to the hope that he'd come back. This cycle, dopamine and cortisol, pleasure and pain, is what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism that keeps people hooked to slot machines or toxic relationships. You never know when the next high is coming, but when it does, it feels like love. So when she begins her awakening, she's not just breaking emotional attachment, she's breaking chemical addiction. That's why it hurts so much. That's why she keeps checking her phone. That's why silence feels unbearable. It's not just heartbreak, it's withdrawal. But the moment she chooses peace over chaos, her brain starts to heal. At first, she misses the drama, the highs, the rush, the messages that used to light up her screen. But over time, she starts craving something new, consistency. And that's how healing rewires the mind. Now let's talk about the turning point, because every woman who's loved an emotionally unavailable man reaches a moment when her heart and her mind finally agree. It might be a small argument that suddenly feels meaningless. It might be a day she realizes she didn't think about him for hours. Or it might be that random text that used to make her heart race, but now just makes her sigh. That moment is sacred. It's the first real breath of freedom. And from that moment on, she no longer needs his attention to feel alive. She starts building a life that doesn't orbit around him. She starts reading again, creating again, sleeping better. She starts smiling not because he texted, but because she finally remembered who she was before him. Now let's talk psychology. Why do women stay so long in these cycles, even after recognizing the red flags? Because for many, it's not about love, it's about attachment style. Women with an anxious attachment often confuse intensity for intimacy. They equate unpredictability for excitement. They think love has to be complicated to be real. But that's not love. That's survival. It's your nervous system trying to resolve old pain through new people. So that's why emotional awakening isn't just leaving the man, it's reprogramming your nervous system. It's teaching your body that calm is safe, that silence doesn't mean rejection, and that consistency doesn't mean boredom. Because healthy love feels boring to those used to chaos, until peace becomes your new normal. But here's another layer that few people understand. The emotionally unavailable man isn't always cruel. He's often broken too, shaped by his own trauma, rejection, or fear of intimacy. Maybe someone betrayed him. Maybe vulnerability once got him hurt. So now, his defense mechanism is distance. He hides behind silence because it makes him feel powerful. He avoids emotional depth because it makes him feel weak. And he confuses detachment with control. But real control isn't avoiding emotions, it's managing them. And until he faces that truth, he'll keep losing people who are willing to love him completely. Now let's return to her, because this story isn't about his healing, it's about hers. When a woman finally walks away, people often say she became cold or heartless. But she didn't. She just learned to stop setting herself on fire to keep someone else warm. She learned that love without reciprocation is self-neglect. She learned that her empathy is not her weakness, it's just been misplaced. And she learned that she doesn't have to fix someone to prove her worth. That realization is freedom. Then comes the phase of self-rebuilding. At first, it feels lonely, because when you've been addicted to emotional chaos, peace feels empty. But slowly, she starts filling that space with meaning. She spends more time alone and realizes solitude isn't punishment, it's recovery. She starts pursuing goals that once felt impossible because all her energy went into chasing love. She laughs again, not because someone made her happy, but because she finally remembered who she was before him. Then comes the phase of self-rebuilding. And suddenly, the same kind of men who once found her easy to manipulate can no longer reach her frequency. Because once a woman heals, she becomes emotionally unavailable to anything less than mutual effort. But healing doesn't mean she stops believing in love. It means she now knows what love is not. It's not confusion. It's not silence after vulnerability. It's not mixed signals disguised as mystery. Love doesn't keep you guessing. Love communicates. Love shows up. Love is clarity. So now she chooses differently. She looks for depth, not drama, consistency, not chaos, peace, not passion that burns too fast. She realizes that love isn't supposed to be an emotional roller coaster. It's supposed to be a steady walk with the right person by your side. And here's the most beautiful part. When she meets that kind of love, she almost rejects it at first because it feels too easy. No adrenaline, no panic, no overthinking, just peace. But then she remembers, this is what love was supposed to feel like all along. That's when she understands. She didn't fall for emotionally unavailable men because she was weak. She fell because she believed love had to be earned. Now she knows it only has to be shared. So if you're listening right now and you've been caught in this same cycle, don't shame yourself for staying too long. Healing begins the moment you stop judging yourself for the way you loved. Forgive yourself for mistaking chemistry for compatibility. Forgive yourself for hoping he would change. Forgive yourself for being human enough to care. Because love isn't the mistake. Giving it to someone who couldn't receive it is just a lesson. And once that lesson is learned, you become a version of yourself that no emotionally unavailable man can ever break again. Thank you for watching Behind the Mind. If this touched you, take a deep breath. You made it through what many never escape. You didn't lose yourself. You found yourself through pain. And in the next episode, we'll go deeper into what comes after healing, how women emotionally bond through vulnerability, and how real masculine presence can create safety that no words can match. Until then, stay aware, stay evolving, and keep going behind the mind.